Thanks a Lot Universe by Chad Lucas. Chapter 4, Superhero Theory, Ezra. Before school, Colby finally texted back one line with a bunch of thoughts strung together in typical Colby style. Sorry, Mom was a pain last night. She's driving me today. See you at school. I didn't see him until the end of the day. I couldn't find him at the morning break, and Ty pulled me into the basketball game outside at lunch. It wasn't completely unusual for us to miss each other now that we had different schedules, but I was relieved when he showed up at my locker after the final bell. He bumped me with his shoulder. Let's get out of here. Colby practically skipped out the back door like he was having the juiciest day ever. I guess you did okay on the test, I said as we crossed the school courtyard toward home. It was all right, he grinned. I had help. From Gemma. I straightened my glasses. Gemma Hart? Yeah, she loves helping me. Turns out Jackson's superhero theory actually works. Jackson's what? Jackson was Colby's older brother. He was a two-faced creep who acted charming around adults and treated Colby like trash when there were no witnesses. Why are you listening to Jackson? Colby shrugged. I know, he's the worst. But he's had 3 girlfriends already. He must be doing something right. I was ready to change the subject, but Colby waited for me to ask. I sighed. What's the superhero theory? Colby flipped his blonde hair to one side. Girls want a guy who's like a superhero, strong and confident, but with one weakness, because they want something they can fix. I couldn't help it. I snorted. Jackson found that in some chat room, right? Colby shook his head. I know it sounds corny, but it works. I figured Gemma liked me, but after I admitted I suck at math, she was all, "Ooh, Colby, let me help you out." He stopped and faced me. She helped me study this week. Whenever I got something right, she'd touch my arm like, "You're doing so great." He batted his eyelashes and rubbed my arm in his best Gemma impression. My breath caught in my throat, and I straightened my glasses again, hoping he didn't notice. We did some last-minute studying at break before the test, and she kept squeezing my arm. She was checking out my muscles. Colby's grin grew wider. I'm going to ask her out. Not right away. I have to let things chill for a bit, but soon. He started walking again. None of this was totally surprising. It was obvious that girls liked Colby. I saw the looks in the cafeteria and the halls, and I understood why. He moved with a confidence that made you think anything was possible. He had talked me into lots of things over the years. Scary movies, midnight snack runs, jumping off a bridge into a river, and I liked that he pushed me to be more adventurous, but it felt strange watching him focus all his coolness powers on convincing a girl to go out with him. Let things chill? Was that Jackson's advice too? Nah, I just don't want her to think I'm asking her out because of the math test, like I'm using her. I tucked my hands in my pockets. Okay, but are you using her? Colby scowled. Bro, of course not. I like her. He kicked a pebble off the sidewalk. Look, we don't have to talk about this if it's weird or whatever. My face went warm. No, it's cool. I'm happy for you. Just don't pick up Jackson's bad vibes. Gross, never. We walked half a block in silence. I scrambled to come up with a joke. Hey, I know Jackson's real secret to getting girls, I said finally. You know your mom's fridge magnets? He gives those out all over school. Colby moaned. Ugh, don't remind me about the magnets. When we were 11, Colby's mom ordered 1,000,000 fridge magnets to advertise her interior design business. She enlisted us to stick them on mailboxes and give them to other kids at school. Colby nearly died of embarrassment. I put on my best YouTuber voice. Cindy Newcomb, laminated magnets are the hot accessory this year. Everyone wants them for their lockers. Dude, shut up, Colby snorted. I knew we were imagining the same thing. Jackson strutting around his high school, handing out magnets with his mom's picture to girls. We laughed all the way home. I came home to an empty house as usual. My parents worked long hours, and they'd decided a while ago that I was old enough to stay home alone. I snacked on a banana Nutella wrap. Then I video chatted with Natalie, my half-sister from Dad's first marriage. She used to look after me a lot until she graduated from college last spring and moved to Toronto to study for her master's. We talked about music in school, and she dished the latest on her roommates and their neurotic cat. I liked that she let me into her adult-ish life. What's new in the thrilling world of 7th grade, she asked. Not much. Oh, Colby's using his bad math grade to get a girlfriend. I told her about Jackson's superhero theory, and Nat literally screamed in horror. Ezra, that's the most lizard-brained nonsense I've heard all week. She leaned so close to her camera that her nose nearly filled my phone screen. Promise me you'll never take relationship advice from anyone in the Newcomb family. I'm 90% sure Jackson found it online. definitely don't take advice from men online. The internet is a digital bathroom stall. She put a hand over her heart. When you're thinking about dating, promise me you'll come to your big sister first. I blushed. I'm not thinking about dating. Okay, but promise. I promise. Good, I have to run. Love you, Ezzy. Don't do drugs. Nat always ended our calls that way. I groaned. You know I hate that. She smiled. I know, but I have to bug you sometimes. Those are the big sister rules. I thought you were against rules and systems. I'm against our patriarchal capitalist system because it's built to benefit the worst people. But the big sister rules are woven into the fabric of the universe. Bye, Ezzy. She blew me a kiss and hung up. While I was on my phone, I checked the juice. Kevin had asked if anyone wanted to play video games online. Ty said he was busy, and Colby hadn't answered. I wondered if he was texting Gemma instead. I played with Kevin for a while. He was a more serious gamer than I was, so 3 rounds of him barking commands in my headset was all I could take for one day. After I logged off, I got curious and checked Colby's Instagram to see if he and Gemma had started following each other recently. Colby's page was mostly selfies and skateboarding videos. As I scrolled, I noticed he'd been tagged in a video I'd never seen. Alicia Smith had posted it with the caption, "Boys are so weird, lol." I clicked play. Colby, Victor McLennan, and Scott Lund stood at the top of a muddy hill. Colby had his shirt off, and they were all barefoot, each holding a sheet of cardboard. Colby shouted, "Go!" and they sprinted downhill. After a few steps, Scott tripped and wiped out in the mud. The video shook as Alicia giggled. Another girl off camera laughed too. Colby and Victor leaped onto their cardboard and surfed into an enormous mud puddle. Colby hit first, spraying a wave of brown slop, and Victor splashed in a second later. The girls cheered. Scott stumbled down the hill and flopped in the puddle. Then the 3 boys wrestled. "What a bunch of goofs," said a voice I recognized as Gemma's. The boys stood up, totally caked in mud. They struck muscle poses that made the girls giggle again. Colby said something to Victor, and the whites of his teeth showed through the mud as he grinned. Then the boys yelled and charged at the girls. "Don't you dare!" Alicia screamed, and that's where the video ended. I noticed the date, posted 4 days ago. That was Saturday, my birthday. I had invited Ty, Kevin, and Colby over for dinner and a sleepover. Colby told me at the last minute that he'd be late, and he didn't show up until 8, with wet hair like he'd just showered. The rest of the night he kept checking his phone. It had bugged me at the time, but I'd let it go because at least he'd shown up. But now it bugged me more. He could have told me the truth about why he was late. I closed Instagram and thought about texting Colby to ask about Saturday, but I chickened out. Instead, I picked up my guitar and plugged it into my amp. I needed to play something loud. Chapter 5, Enemy Territory, Brian. Our house felt haunted. As I approached my room, I swore I heard echoes of the paramedics' radios coming from my parents' room. Goosebumps prickled my arms. Kate had let us stop by to pack, but she'd hovered in the hall between our rooms, like she was too suspicious to leave us unsupervised. "Hey, Richie," I whispered. "Distract her while I go do something for Dad." He gave me a thumbs up. "How strong are you?" he called to Kate. "Can you carry my dresser to your car?" Kate rushed into his room. "Wait, what? You can't bring your whole dresser." "But I need my clothes." He folded his arms. "All of them, and my most favorite Lego sets. The Ninja Temple and the rescue helicopter and the Batmobile." Kate sighed. While she tried to reason with him, I snuck to the basement to find a suitcase and retrieve my present from Dad's hiding spot. Presents, it turned out. 2 boxes, wrapped in black paper dotted with basketballs. My eyes grew watery. I shoved both boxes in the suitcase. As I lugged the suitcase upstairs, my chest tightened. I didn't want to go with Kate, but I didn't want to stay either. Our house felt all wrong. Kate had told us our temporary guardians were grandparents, but it still surprised me to see the gray-haired couple waving from the front steps of their 2-story house. Gordon and Emma Wenzel were way older than my parents. Mom had me when she was 19. Dad was 18. They were barely in their 30s now. Dad played Overwatch and cranked Jay-Z in the car, and when Mom was doing well, she sang in the kitchen and climbed trees with Richie. One night, when I was awake late, I heard them laughing their faces off in the living room. In the good times, they were full of energy. They were fun. Dad would never in a million years wear the dull brown blazer Gordon Wenzel had on. I bet he'd owned that jacket longer than my dad had been alive. Dude belonged on an oatmeal box. As we approached, Emma descended on us. She called us dear and patted Richie's messy brown hair and said, "Aren't you the most handsome thing?" Richie caught my eye and gagged. She reached toward me as she ushered us inside, but I squirmed away. 10 minutes later, Gordon went back to work. Kate left, and Richie and I were alone with Emma in her living room. Photos lined every wall, and ceramic cat figurines stared at us from bookshelves, the coffee table, the top of the upright piano. There had to be 50 at least. There was an entire life jammed into that room, a life that had nothing to do with me, and I wanted nothing to do with it. Should we put your things in your rooms? Emma said. Maybe you'd like to relax first. Can I bring you some cookies? Would you like milk or apple juice? You're not allergic to milk, are you? Do you have any allergies I should know about? Emma was a verbal avalanche. I could barely breathe. My face tingled. I caught Richie's eye, and he read my expression. Get me away from this lady. We'll go to our rooms now, he said. Emma clucked in sympathy. Of course, you probably want to rest. You've been through a lot today, haven't you? Poor dears. She led us upstairs. Thankfully, my temporary bedroom was simpler than the rest of the house. The sky-blue walls were mostly bare, and there were no cats in sight. Brian will put you in here, Emma said. Richie, you're next door. Richie didn't move. I'm staying with Brian. I stared at him in surprise. We hadn't shared a room since we'd moved out of a dingy apartment when I was 7. Emma frowned. Are you sure, dear? I thought you'd be more comfortable in your own space. No, Richie folded his arms. He blinked fast, suddenly fighting tears. Seeing him upset helped me find my voice. I rested my hands on his shoulders. It's okay. We can share the bed. Emma wavered. Well, if you're sure. We are, Richie straightened, satisfied that he'd gotten his way. Can I have a cookie now? And can I watch TV? Mom lets me watch after school, and it's after school now. I suppose so, Emma said. I didn't follow them back downstairs. I crawled into a ball on the bed, trying to ignore that the mattress was too squishy and smelled old. I tried to imagine I was in my own room. Would you like more gravy? Some peas? What's your favorite class in school? Emma never stopped. Richie had woken me 10 minutes earlier, and I was still so groggy that nothing felt real. A giant ceramic Siamese cat watched me from a hutch across the room. For heaven's sake, Emma, give him a minute. Gordon winked at me. You look like you could have slept for a week. What did that mean? Was it code for I suspect you are sleep-deprived due to your terrible home life? Even sympathy was a trap. I never shared much about Mom and Dad because they weren't exactly cover models for today's parent. But now that a worst-case scenario was unfolding, we couldn't afford to slip up and provide evidence for Kate's blue folder. I had already warned Richie. Pretend we're spies in enemy territory. We have to figure out who's trustworthy and who's not. I'd whispered as we made our way downstairs. He'd nodded. Got it. At dinner, Richie fished out intel on the Wenzels and told rambling stories about his best friend, Leo Sidhu. Honestly, I was jealous of how Richie could captivate a room with his breezy confidence. He'd inherited Mom's good looks and Dad's swagger. I got Dad's freckles and Mom's tendency to find the world overwhelming. It was a raw deal. I chewed slowly, so I had an excuse not to talk. I tried not to look at that dang fake cat, but my eyes kept drifting to it. By the time I finished, Gordon had already cleared the table. I hope you saved room for dessert, Emma said. She retreated to the kitchen. As she clanged around, I caught a metallic whiff of something igniting, followed by a sizzle. I realized what was happening as she rounded the corner carrying a tray. Sparks jumped. I swear she was about to break into song until she saw my face and thought better of it. Instead, she set the tray before me and backed away. A birthday cake, with chocolate frosting and Happy Birthday, Brian, scripted in yellow icing, and sparklers, 3 of them. Nobody spoke until the sparklers fizzled out, leaving a bitter curl of smoke wafting toward the ceiling. Miss Evans told me it was your birthday, Emma said. I hope it's all right. I didn't know if you liked chocolate. I stared at the cake. I was wide awake now. It was June 7th, my 13th birthday. And I should have a belly full of hot, numbing chicken, and the cake should be made of ice cream, and I should be at home with Mom and Dad. This was wrong. Everything was wrong. Brian, Gordon said. You okay, fella? I told you he'd hate it, Richie said. Emma waved her hands. I thought you'd want... But if it's too hard, we can save it for later. Oh, I don't know. What do you want, Brian? Wasn't it obvious? I wanted a time machine, or a wormhole to an alternate universe. I wanted to be anywhere but here. I stood up and left the room. A few minutes later, Richie followed me upstairs and entered the bedroom, closing the door behind him. He sat beside me on the bed. I told her cake was a bad idea. She didn't listen. We were quiet. Are you okay? Richie asked. You won't end up in the hospital like Mom, will you? I swallowed hard and squeezed his shoulder. I'm not going anywhere, Rich. We're a team. He pulled his knees to his chest. Emma talks so much. It's annoying. She's a good cook, though. Yeah. You don't like her, do you? I shrugged. I guess not. This is all so weird, and the cats creep me out. Richie's eyes bugged. She has so many cats. It's freaky. I stretched on the bed. Richie flopped next to me and poked me in the ribs. I pulled him close. We stayed there a while. Brian? Yeah? I ate a piece of cake. I know, Rich. You have icing on your face. He wiped his mouth. It was really good. I'm glad you liked it, honestly. You should open your presents now. I don't feel like it. Please? I sighed. Oh, all right. He hopped off the bed and dug a small box out of his suitcase. Mine first. I pulled off the wrapping paper and opened the box. It held a cord necklace with a silver dog tag inscribed with 2 Japanese characters. It means ninja, Richie said, 'cause you're quiet like a ninja. Mom helped me order it. I traced the characters with my finger. This is super cool. Thank you. After I put on the necklace, Richie made me open Dad's presents. The bigger box held a Russell Westbrook basketball jersey. He's my favorite player because he's aggressive and fearless. 2 things I'm not. I slipped the jersey over my t-shirt. It was long and loose, but I imagined Dad telling me I'd grow into it. I unwrapped the second present and stared. No way, Richie said. Dad got you a phone? I hadn't mentioned how much I wanted one, but Dad knew. When I lifted the sleek black phone from its packaging, I found a handwritten note underneath. Sorry I didn't have time for a proper card. I recorded a message for you. I fiddled with the screen until I found Dad's recording. I popped in the phone's earbuds. Hey, Richie protested. I want to hear too. I waved him off and hit play. Dad's voice filled my ears. He sounded tired. Hey, B-Man, I was looking forward to giving this to you. It took me forever to convince your mom. I told her, come on, he's the most responsible kid in the world. He'll be fine. He sighed. Anyway, I put some music and pictures on here for you. Hank's in your contacts. He's expecting your call. I'm using a burner and can't give you the number, but I'll call you as soon as I can. Hang in there, buddy. Look after Richie and your mom. Love you. I couldn't hold out any longer. Tears came and I couldn't stop them. I pulled the front of my new jersey over my face. What's wrong, Richie said. What did Dad say? Emma knocked on the door. Boys? We're fine, Richie said. Leave us alone. She opened the door. Just wanted to say goodnight. Oh, dear. Brian. Richie hopped up. I told you to leave us alone. Why don't you ever listen? Hey now, Gordon said. Watch your tone there, fella. I pulled the jersey all the way over my head. Richie argued with Gordon and Emma, but she kept talking, and I hated her seeing me cry, and blood thumped in my ears. She put a hand on my knee, and I rocketed forward, nearly knocking her over. I ran out and locked myself in the bathroom. Brian, are you okay? Emma called, but I ignored her. I tried to avoid the mirror, but I caught a glimpse of my face, all blotchy and tear-stained like a little kid's. Emma paced in the hall. Oh dear, should I talk to him? One of us should talk to him. Gordon, you should talk to him. Do your ears not work? Richie said. Leave him alone. Young man, don't be rude. Seriously, shut up for once and listen. Silence. Brian hates strangers asking him a million questions. Richie continued after a moment. You're bothering him and making it worse. Just leave us alone. The bedroom door slammed. Emma sighed. Let them be, Gordon said. Tomorrow is another day. Their footsteps moved away. I sat on the toilet lid and fiddled with my phone until I found the photos Dad had saved for me. The first showed a freckled teenager with a huge grin holding an infant. Me. I'd never seen that picture of Dad before. He looked so young and so happy. He'd loaded pictures of trips to the beach, poses on playgrounds, and by the lighthouse at Peggy's Cove, one from Richie's 6th birthday, 4 August ago, where Richie's shirt bunched around his armpits as Dad dangled him upside down. I hung onto Dad's back with my eyes closed and my mouth open in mid-yell. Dad was laughing. We were so happy. Houses are never completely quiet. I was used to the sounds of my own house at night, but at the Wensels, a clock ticked too loudly, and Gordon or Emma snored, and something went thunk downstairs, probably the ceramic cats coming to life and forming an army to murder me. Richie slept through it all with his butt jutting onto my half of the bed. I couldn't sleep, so I picked up my phone for the 10th time. How to drive yourself bonkers in a strange house at night. 1. Open cell phone contacts. 2. Stare at Hank Ferris's number. 3. Reach for call button. 4. Fall paralyzed with anxiety. 5. Convince yourself it's too late to call at 10:12, 10:26, 10:46, 11:03, 11:17 p.m. Set phone down. Repeat. Hank was practically my uncle. He played video games with Dad and horsed around with Richie. He never had deep life conversations or anything, but I knew him well enough that calling should have been easy. I was a coward. I'll call in the morning, I decided, for the 10th time. Who was I kidding? I'd never sleep if I didn't call. I'd lie awake hating myself. Finally, in a spasm of bravery or panic or both, I pressed the green button. My head tingled and my mouth went dry as the phone rang. Hank answered on the second ring. He sounded wide awake. Brian? Thank goodness, I'm so glad you called. My shoulders unclenched. I didn't wake you up? I kept my voice low, even though Richie could have slept through Godzilla laying an egg in the backyard. No, how's everything? How's your mom? I called, but no one answered. He didn't know. Brian? Hank said at my stunned silence. Is everything all right? Mom's in the hospital, I blurted out. She's what? What happened? Where are you? I forced out as much as I could without falling apart. Hank cursed. Oh, Brian, sorry, I shouldn't swear, but this isn't good. Hearing Hank so upset was oddly comforting. All day I dealt with strangers who followed rules and gave orders and tried to fix things when all I wanted was to curl up and disappear. Are you and Richie all right? He asked. I guess. Okay, good. Can you come to the bank tomorrow? You know where I am, right? I'll come after school. You're going to school? You could take another day off. I hadn't even considered that, but school seemed better than Emma pestering me all day. I said goodnight and hung up. With a glance at Richie, I slipped out of the room. I was still wearing a t-shirt and basketball shorts. At home, I slept in my underwear, but I didn't trust Emma not to barge in. Obviously, she had trouble with boundaries. In the kitchen, I tested the cake because why not? It was way too sweet. I carried the leftovers outside and dropped the whole thing into the compost bin. I looked up at the hazy night sky. I was a 10-minute drive from my house in the North End and an entire universe removed from my actual life. 10 minutes, Sergeant States had said. 5 if that's too hard. But at night, in a strange house, every minute was its own infinity. Chapter 6, Priorities. Ezra. Staying up past midnight on a Wednesday wasn't my choice. Ty said it was a sacred duty of our friendship. It was Game 3 of the NBA Finals, LeBron James and the Cleveland Cavaliers versus the Golden State Warriors. The Warriors were supervillains with a 2-0 series lead, and LeBron needed my support. This was Ty's pitch. He could be very convincing. Ty lived for basketball. He'd made the provincial under-14 team and trained all summer. He and Jaden Grass, an 8th grader, regularly argued about LeBron versus Kevin Durant like two old men in a barber shop. I was just good enough to be the guy on our school's team who played garbage time minutes when the game was practically over. I mostly sat on the bench cheering for my teammates, but I didn't mind. I watched in bed with the sound off and probably could have fallen asleep if Ty hadn't kept texting me. Colby didn't care about basketball, and Kevin's parents made him put his phone away at 9:30 every night, so it was just Ty and me. When the Cavaliers took the lead in the third quarter, he called me. You're still watching, right? I yawned. Yeah. This is their night. You believe, right? I believe, Ty. Ty's play-by-play was better than any announcer's. He let out a woo when LeBron dunked, and I heard his dad say, shh, if you wake up your mother, we'll both get it. During the commercial break before the fourth quarter, Ty blew out a long breath. This is stressful. Let's talk about something else. What's your take on the Colby-Gemma situation? You know about that? Did Colby tell you? I asked. Nah, I was talking to Gemma and Maddie was teasing Gemma about liking Colby, and Gemma was all, cut it out. Cut it out, Maddie. But she was also like, but seriously, Ty, do you think he likes me? And I said, yeah, because it's obvious. Ty's play-by-play of school gossip was as detailed as his basketball commentary. I didn't know you talked like that with Gemma and Maddie. I talked to everybody. True story, his dad said. You came out of the womb talking and haven't stopped yet. Dad, shush. You wake up Mom. Don't you shush me on my own couch. So, what do you think? Ty said to me. I didn't want to start any rumors, but I wasn't telling Ty anything he didn't already know. Colby told me he likes her, I admitted. Of course he does. Colby likes every pretty girl who looks at him. I swallowed. You think Gemma's pretty? For sure. I mean, I'm not into her like Colby is, but I get why he likes her. Before I could respond, Ty said, "Enough girl talk. The game's back." His dad chuckled. "That's good, son. Keep your priorities straight." Basketball was the last thing on my mind, but I hung in till the bitter end as Cleveland's lead disappeared. When Kevin Durant hit a three-pointer with 45 seconds left and put the Warriors ahead, Ty wailed like someone had set his best sneakers on fire. The Cavaliers didn't score again, and the Warriors won. "I hate Kevin Durant with my whole heart," Ty moaned. "Thanks for the support, Ezra. You're a good friend." "No problem. Good night." I put my phone away and settled into bed. Even though I was tired, I didn't fall asleep right away. I was still thinking about Colby and Gemma. I thought about how everyone gossiped about who liked who. Kevin did that now too. Whatever, "Hey look, girls," hormone had swept through my friends. It hadn't hit me. I never said that out loud though. Sometimes junior high is the most ridiculous place. Nat had warned me about this before she moved. "Hang in there," she had told me. "You'll find your people, Ezra. It might take time, but it'll happen." I hadn't understood what she meant. I told her I had lots of friends. She gave me a knowing big sister look. There are people we hang around with because it's comfortable or convenient or safe. And there are people. When you find them, you'll know the difference. The Juicy Four are my people, I thought, especially Colby. Sure, lots had changed this year. New schools, different classes, other kids in the mix, but it was almost summer break, and everything would go back to normal then. We'd be inseparable, like last summer. But I kept seeing Colby's mud-caked grin as he chased Gemma instead of eating jerk chicken with me on my birthday. It still stung that he didn't even tell me. Maybe he wanted to, but he didn't know how? Don't be so dramatic, I told myself. Only I yawned, so it came out as Drac. When I was younger, Mom told me that tonight's problems will seem smaller tomorrow after a good sleep. Maybe she's still right, I thought, as I closed my eyes.